Hello and welcome back to the Good Business Witch podcast. I just felt like this morning needed a little jingle at the beginning. So welcome back to the podcast. Thank you once again for joining me. And today I've got just a really fun topic, for you. Less lighthearted, more kind of down to business. But I find it interesting. And I think that's what I mean by fun, is it's just some interesting topics about what it's like to be a woman in business. So a lot of times we really feel like we're just kind of alone out there, right? And it's so easy as a solo business owner to feel like you are just in a sea of just all this noise and this chaos and everything. Oh, Trudy's running up to say hi. She might pop up in the camera in a minute if you're watching on YouTube. But, you know, it feels like we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere by ourselves. And that's just not the case. And so I want to help you feel less alone in today's podcast. I also want you to feel like there are solutions to some of the big problems that we as women business owners absolutely face. So we're just going to dive into like 6 or 7 topics and challenges to just our mental health, our happiness, our emotions, and our success as business owners. And again, like I said, this is not to bring you down. This is to lift you up. This is to help remind you that you are not alone and we are all in this together. So let's just dive in, right? So the very first one, of course, is like finding the work-life balance. And this really comes from the societal expectations of women that, you know, we as women are supposed to be the primary caregivers in our family. Even if we do not have children, we're often expected to be caregivers in some way. And sometimes that looks like, making sure your friends are taken care of. Like, these are all good things, but when they're pushed to the limit and you are overwhelmed, they're no longer good, right? In fact, 44% of women business owners cite this challenge with balancing family life and running a business as one of their greatest challenges. And a lot of that is because if they're mothers, they're 3 times more likely than fathers to be responsible for most of the household labor. And this creates additional burdens for women business owners. So as a business owner, like, you're always thinking about your business. I saw the funniest graphic, meme the other day. And it was like, I quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7. And you know what? A lot of that is the truth. We are always thinking about our business. We're always looking for ways to improve. We're always looking for new ideas. And if you are a spiritual business owner, like I know many of you are actually like always tapped into source energy when it comes to your business. And you're just like always like looking for those signs. Sometimes even when the signs aren't there, like sometimes when probably source is like, honey, take a break. But we're always thinking about our business. And then if we're, doing the dishes and cooking the meals and hauling the kids around or getting the pets to the vet, all of these things, it's just so much. So you are not alone, my friend. I promise you. One of the other challenges we have is confidence and imposter syndrome. And I'm not saying that men don't experience imposter syndrome, because they absolutely do. They experience imposter syndrome a lot less. It feels like every woman that I know who is a business owner or is a professional of some sort has an imposter syndrome story, or like 3. And a lot of men don't. 60% of women entrepreneurs report a lack of confidence in their business knowledge, in their leadership skills, and in their skills for like specific tasks. And this can really hinder their business growth. And 50% of us are more likely than men to underestimate our business success. This leads to challenges in scaling the operations, challenges in sales and marketing. If like we're not allowing ourselves to brag a little bit about what we've done, like how badass we are, we're really kind of cutting our nose off to spite our face, which perhaps unironically comes from an old tale of some nuns who were being pursued by men who literally cut their noses off to repel them, to spite their face. So take that and do with that what you will, right? Anyway, we really, really do stand in our own way sometimes. So this is your reminder and your call to brag about yourself. In fact, you should be talking about your work in the same way, in the same confidence as a middle-aged white man talks about his fishing expedition and all of the great things that he has done on his hunting trip. Do business with the confidence of a mediocre white man, and honey, you'll about meet it halfway there, because we've been taught for so long to pull ourselves back, to hide, to be demure, to be quiet, right? A lot of times we have a hard time with access to mentorship. 48% of women business owners are saying that they are struggling with finding mentors and finding leaders. And that's compared to 39% of men. So it's not like it's not a problem for guys. It's just less of a problem for them. And so to go along with that, there's a large chunk of women who also feel like there's a lack of access to networking opportunities, connections, that sort of thing. And a lot of that actually goes to kind of like that queen bee syndrome. So you know the movie Mean Girls, right? Mean Girls was actually based off of a book called Queen Bees and Wannabes. And it was really a self-help guide for parents of teenage girls, and to learn how to help them through the struggles of peer pressure and the way that girls in particular will compete with one another. In the business world, there is this phenomenon in which women who are, especially in male-dominated environments, they will actually try to be more masculine than even the men around them. They will also kind of turn into this queen bee behavior, kind of the Regina Georges of the business structure. And they are doing this out of a need to protect their position and protect themselves. Remember a couple of episodes ago, I was talking about how dumb the brain is and how it's just there to like make sure we survive and to protect us. That comes into play when a woman has succeeded in business or in her career. She feels like she does need to gatekeep it, whether she is doing it intentionally or not. She does have that instinct, and that is normal and natural, and something that we women, when we are looking to help others out, need to really shift our perspective on. The thing is I'm a woman in my 40s. And if I meet a woman in her 20s and she's just getting started, it does not help me in any way to gatekeep information, and it only harms her. So why wouldn't I extend that olive branch and say, hey, Ann, let me help you out, right? And let me throw some referrals your way. I mean, we all get to grow together, right? We're all just pushing up against that glass ceiling, man. I tell you what, some of the other things that we run into are kind of access to funding and pay and leadership gaps. There's only 10.4% of Fortune 500 CEOs out there who are women. So there's not a whole lot of examples of women in leadership. And there's certainly a lot fewer examples of women in leadership than there are for men. And so if you have a hard time finding a woman to kind of emulate and to follow in terms of her business, you are not alone. And there are not many examples out there, unfortunately. There's also a big gap when it comes to funding. Female founders are 63% less likely than male founders to secure financing and funding from investors. So I'm seeing some organizations pop up that are really all about supporting women businesses. Some of them are really supporting women of color businesses. So there are these organizations that are emerging, that are coming forward to say, hey, we want to champion women's initiatives, women's businesses, all of that. So we are seeing that change, but it is not something that you're imagining. You are not imagining any of this stuff. We face a lot of challenges out there. A lot of stuff is very much male dominated. And when women come into these spaces, unfortunately, rather than bringing a more feminine vibe to it and kind of balancing things out, women feel like to secure their space, they have to be more masculine than they would like to be. And oftentimes they try to be more masculine than the men, which is just astounding to me when I came across that research. That actually is from some of the research that I conducted when I was writing Breaking Up with Burnout, which will be out probably early next year. I'm super excited. And if you don't know, that is my book all about the challenges of women and the burnout that we face, right? As women in particular, because there are just different structures and influences that are on us. I mean, right now, we're looking at a political contest that will, then the presidential contest that will determine whether or not we have the rights to our own bodies or not, in a very real way. This is extra pressure that leads to extra burnout and extra stress that men don't have. They can sympathetically have because they're worried about their wives, their sisters, their daughters, their granddaughters, but they don't have it firsthand, right? So that's just one example of all of the different systems that are around us that help lead us to burnout. And honestly, all of these facts and all of the things I've been talking about in this episode are too. It's one of those things that we currently have to deal with, and we have to kind of put our thinking caps on together and see how we can shift this for ourselves and for other women in the industry. Finally, there is this concern about being authentic versus being professional. And both of those words are not great. I honestly need to ask ChatGPT about how to talk about authenticity and being authentic in a way that just doesn't sound so buzzwordy. You can do that, by the way. And, but you know what I mean when I talk about authentic, like being yourself. Like there's this worry about, can I be myself or do I need to be professional? And let me tell you this. I've talked about professionalism before on the podcast. It was probably a couple of years ago, honestly, at this point. But professionalism is an idea that is very centered on corporate white male America. Okay. It is the thing that keeps people from expressing themselves and being themselves. It is also something that works against women. It works against people of color. It works against people with disabilities. It works against anybody that's not able-bodied, male, and usually white. Okay. So this is where we hear arguments about dress code and natural hair and accents or speech patterns. Like this all comes up as what's professional and what's not. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're of course seeing me doing the little bunny ear quotes, but I'm telling you on the audio, I am bunny ear air quoting professional because I think it's a bullshit term and I think it is outdated. So what I'm telling you today as a business owner is that you being yourself rather than trying to fit into some sort of mold that you think is quote unquote professional or is, the way it's supposed to be, being yourself will always win. And obviously, you want to have some ground rules for yourself. Like maybe you don't want to cuss in your business. I am obviously the opposite. I always mark episodes on the podcast as explicit because I don't remember if I cussed or not. But that is not a professionalism thing either way. That's how you choose to conduct business, right? When you're vulnerable in your business, you don't have to share everything. Like put some boundaries in place, right? And define what is professional for your business and for you. Don't look to other people. Okay. Remember, you went into business for yourself for so many reasons, and freedom to be yourself is one of those many reasons. So don't lose that. My friends, that is what I have for you today. I am so glad that you have joined me here in the podcast. I do want to update you on a couple of things. I have decided that the Lunar Business Lab is just going to be a free Substack. So come find me on Substack. I am shifting around some of the offerings because of that. It was too much. Okay. And here is a quick little word of wisdom for you. It is okay to try something in your business and for you to realize that you don't really like doing it or it's too much work for you or whatever. So I will still be posting the content. I will still be doing little mini podcast episodes for the moons, just kind of as a reminder for myself, but also for you. So come over there and join me in the Lunar Business Lab. It is, I think it's meganwinkler.substack.com. So come over there, hang out. Also, I've got some really fun stuff happening on Instagram soon. So that's at the Good Business Witch. And I would love to hang out with you over there. All right, friends, I wish you a magical rest of your week and weekend, and I will chat with you soon. Have a great one. And till next time, stay magical.